Hey y'all, Rochelle here, your delightful crafter. So, I am coming to you today with a Arteza review. Arteza reached out to me and, asked if I was interested in trying out some of their products and sharing my thoughts on them. And I was saying, absolutely, because I've used Arteza in the past and I really liked it. I had one item that I was iffy on, but we're going to give it a second try today. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope you stick around a spell. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Ding the bell next door if you want to get notifications of future videos. Thumbs up, likes are always appreciated. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Now, this might be a long video. I did do a test run of some of the items that we're going to use today. One being, so here's what they sent me. Actually, we'll start with an Arteza product we're going to review today that I purchased. And it is the Arteza the Real Brush pens. They're kind of the competitor to the Zig Clean Color Real Brush, which I also have. I have those as well, and I really like those. Now, when I tried these, I tried them on, I guess, a not so great watercolor paper, so I wasn't very impressed with them. So we are going to try them again today. Arteza did send me their, I believe it's their expert grade watercolor pad. So let me share with you what they sent me to review and share with you guys. If you see anything you like, links to all the items today will be down in the description. There will also be a discount code for you to use should you choose to make a purchase. And as always, I will give my real opinions on an item, whether I like it or not. Because you know me, I like a good craft product. And the first time I reviewed the brush pens, I wasn't that big of a fan of them. So we're going to give them a second go today, and we're going to try them on the Arteza watercolor paper. So they sent me, this is 14 sheets, 9 by 12, 140 pound, and 300 GSM. I believe, yeah, it's a cold press paper. And so cold press means the paper has like a grain, like a texture to it. A hot press is going to be smooth, kind of like your Bristol paper that you use for like Copic coloring and stuff like that. I went ahead today because, like I said, my craft room is still destroyed. All my inks are they're not where they're supposed to be. But I was able to find my StazOn Jet Black. And while it's not perfect, it will suit our purposes for today. I went ahead and stamped these poinsettia images. Some of them, hopefully they turn out good. Like this one. Like, I won't use this one, but we are going to, as far as like for a card. But we will use it today for a demonstration. Same with that one. Hopefully, though, the coloring turns out okay. This is a poinsettia stamp that I've had for a very long time. It is from Santa Rosa, California. And I want to say that the company was called Stampa Rosa. I don't know if they're still in business, because I believe Stampa Rosa also had House Mouse back in the day. Anyway, so they sent me this watercolor page. I've already used one sheet. Some of it is cut out here. And then I did some test samples earlier that we are going to use again later, right here. These aren't the best, but it was on purpose because I wanted to give these time to dry to see how well we can layer towards the end of the video. Because, you know, as the samples that we try, they're already going to be wet. So anyway, we're going to see how that turns out. So they sent me that. They also sent me these, I believe these are a new item. These are called TwiMarkers. This is a 48 count. They're a water-based blendable marker. And so one side is supposed to be like a brush tip, and the other side, I believe, is a fine point. Yep, we have a brush tip and a fine point. So I did test these out. So far, I'm kind of liking them. So we will see how how it works on these samples over here. And then they also sent me these Inkonic pens. These are also a water-based pen. Here they show you kind of like just different layering as far as coloring, but I found that it does blend fairly well with water. So we're going to give it all a go, and I'll give you my honest opinion on how I like everything. We're going to start with the TwiMarkers. We're going to set this aside because I already have everything stamped and ready to go. I did, this is not an Arteza brush pen. I know they have some. I did not, they did let me kind of sort of choose what I would be interested in. I told them that I was looking at wanting to do a lot of watercolor in the future, and so they sent me a couple of, I gave them a list of items I liked, and that's what they sent. If I thought about it, I would have requested the brush pens as well, just for comparison. I have this bowl of water over here because I actually decided I liked dipping it better than squeezing it from the barrel. That's my personal preference. So just, you know, putting that out there if you're getting frustrated with your water pen. So we're going to get started. We're going to start with the messed up images because it's a watercolor and it was a wood block stamp. Now this is stained because it is Stays-On, but I will take my Stays-On cleaner to it and it'll clean up and look almost brand new when I'm done. So let's pull these out. So as you see, there's 48 colors. Sorry for the noise. I'm going to set that off to the side. For the purposes of the poinsettias, we are going to pull out, I'm going to use these two greens. Actually, we're going to go with this green. I think that might work a little better. There are names on the barrels, so we're going with emerald green here and apple green. Then with the yellows, we are going to go with lemon yellow. And then with the reds, I'm actually going to pull out two. I believe I'll probably only use one. This is called Ruby Red, and this one is called Rose Red. And the reason why I'm only kind of sticking to a few colors is because with the water, you can kind of control the darkness and lightness of your coloring. This is all one, this is just one shade of red, and it is this one here, the Ruby Red. And so I kind of let areas dry and then went back over again and added more color to give a little bit of shading to it. I am by no means, I don't even consider myself a good watercolorist. So I am total novice. I have some knowledge of shading, you know, but I know just enough to be dangerous, basically. So we're going to set those off to the side. And so for this sample, we will be using the Twi brush. The next sample, we'll be using the Inkonics. And the third sample, we will use the real brush pens. So let's get started. So we're going to start with the Ruby Red. And what I have decided that I like, and I'll show you two ways, and you can make your decision on sorry guys, what method you like better. So we're going to go with the wet method, and then we're going to go with the dry method. And so with the wet, I'm getting the area that I want to color wet first. And I also created like a little, I don't know where my acrylic blocks are. So I just took a cellophane bag, put some cardstock in it, We're going to need a lot of it, actually. There we go. And now we're going to pull up some red and take it to the paper. And it moves fairly easily. I'm not very, like I said, I'm very new. I'm not good with precision with the brush. Okay. Next, what we will do is we will take the pen to the paper. And then we will add the water. And I have found that if you go that route, granted the color's more intense, but I don't find that it moves as easily. And, I mean, it looks okay, but I can still see where the streak marks where I added the pen to the paper. So, and now we're just going to go, I'm going to add some water to my sheet there, blend it out. And I think this is like a medium tip water aqua pen. You do have to wait for the areas to dry really well before you come back over with another layer. Otherwise, you can't really intensify, you know, shadowing, because, you know, technically these petals that are up underneath another one, it should be darker down here at the base. So we're going to try that. And it moves fairly well. The paper is holding up. It's not pilling. So we're going to go here again. And as you see, I haven't added a lot of water or color back to the pen yet. I'm going to add some color back in. I hope that you guys can't hear the background. I'm watching. I love cold case files and stuff like that. And so I'm faintly listening to a cold case file while doing this. And it would probably be best if I actually used a watercolor brush. And I'm not worrying too much over here because there is another poinsettia petal, so plus if I were I like to work like literally over my image, so like if I were doing the way I prefer, you'd be looking at the back of my head. So I'm sure there's more of you out there that are like that. And I'm trying to follow, like, add shading to the areas where the stamp is showing the veining in the petal. Okay. I have been collecting, well, we know I'm good at curating. I have been collecting watercolors for about a little over a year now. I have only literally a handful of Daniel Smith, and I have zero experience with watercolor. Everything I know is based on watching YouTube videos or channels like The Mind of Watercolor. Any other time I could spit the name of all the channels out that I like to follow. There's some excellent watercolor channels out there. Sandy Allnock does some fairly good watercoloring. While I can't think of everybody right now, what I'll do is in the description, I will add the links to the channels that I love to follow and that I've learned quite a bit from. So, boy. And honestly, I wish I had done this live, because then you guys could tell me if you wanted me to do the full flower or move on to the next item. And see, that's just one red, and I have different shades. Again, like, this looks really red, this one has a pinkish color, and I kind of like that, because when you get poinsettias, they can be a deep, deep, deep red. They can be soft pinks. Some of the poinsettias out there even are kind of greenish. And so I kind of like this look. So this paper is holding the water really well. It's not bubbling too much. It's not pilling with the constant, adding of water, going over it repeatedly. This is actually quite fun. And again, I didn't know where all my inks were. How I really wanted to do this is I wanted to use my, oh Lord help me today. I really wanted to do an embossing on here. That way I didn't have to worry about the, going out of the lines. It's kind of like the beginner's easy watercolor, because you don't have to worry about the water going outside of the image and your colors bleeding too much. So which is something to think about when you're starting watercolor. And if you were using multiple colors here, I would move around the page so that, if you were, say like if this were green and this were red, I would move away and work somewhere else till this dried before working with the leaf that's supposed to be green. Otherwise, they would bleed into each other. So we're going to add a little more ink there. And let's use the fine point and see what it does on this petal right here. Pretty scratchy, and I'm going along the edge to add color there, so it's easier for the color to move when I add the water to the image. In the past, when I've tried this with other items or other product, you tend to see the strokes in there, and you can kind of see that with this, but it seems to be blending out okay. If you look at that, you've got some darker coloring towards the side, and it doesn't look like brush pen strokes. It actually looks like I added the color there intentionally. So that looks pretty good. Let's do a couple more like that. And again, I'm just following like the veining on the image. And then around the petal. I'm hoping that the brush pens, when I try them out, kind of work the same way, because like I said, when I tried them the first time, they didn't work very well. They really stayed put on the paper and didn't move with the water. And so I was really disappointed. So we'll try it on another one of these sheets and see how it goes. So we're gonna try and finish this up quick so we can, ooh, that's nice and intense. I like that. We'll do this one. And I'm looking at the camera. This is going to be a longer video. So if you're going to stick around, I suggest definitely getting something to drink, maybe a snack. I really like how intense this is getting. I'm going to come out here to the side and let it wash out a little bit. I love poinsettias, but because of the cats, we can't have them in the house, which is sad because I really adore poinsettias. I think I'm liking the picking it up and adding versus doing the wet and then adding, because it's the color's not as intense. So see what I mean? It's not very deep. Which would be nice if you're going for like the pink looking poinsettia. Come on. Okay, we're going to finish up these last two, and then we are going to add the leaves, and I don't know what the little yellow ones are, but let's see. We got one. Yeah, we got one more petal. Grab that up. And it's a little messy, I do apologize. Alright, so we've got the bulk of our petals done. We are now, and with the greens, we're going to do two. We're going to do this apple green and this emerald green. And we're going to go down with the apple green first. And then I'm going to come back down with the emerald green. And I gotta say, I was really surprised. We're gonna do the Inkonics next. And I wasn't quite sure what I was gonna think about how they moved on the paper, but they moved really well. I was really pleased with how they moved on the paper. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. All right, and now we're gonna go with our lemon yellow. And again, I know the images aren't crisp because it's a wood block. I couldn't use any of my stamp positioners to get a better image for the poinsettia, so I do apologize. So this is where we're at with the TwiMarkers. So I'm going to let that sit up there. I'm going to wipe this off so we don't have any contamination of colors. And now we are going to work on, I'm going to come over here. And now we're going to use, let me get these up and out of the way. We are going to use the Inkonics next. We're already at 25 minutes, so I do apologize for the length of this video. So these come in a nice tin. They are not layered. I believe these come in 48, and I think they come in a 48 count. I'm not positive. But for being a 24 count, it has a really nice color selection, which I'm very happy with. So, and the colors we're going to use on this one, they don't have names, they have numbers. So we're going with A101, A105, A120, and A111. So, and like I said, I was really happy with how these worked. I was really skeptical at first. I did find that these worked better if you put the ink directly on the paper. This looks really sloppy, but I really liked how it, the shading that it provided when adding the, oh, I didn't get all the yellow off. Shame on me. There we go. My bad. We'll come back and add more red to it later. And you have to work it a little harder than the Twi brushes. But I really like the look. Again, I'm following the veining of the leaf. And with these, I think the colors are more vibrant. And it seems to move a little faster. I add more ink where there's more like shading in the stamped image. And again, I'm moving around the page so that, because if you try to work the pen next to a wet area, it is a little difficult. The pen kind of gets a little funny about that. And again, now I'm moving around the petal, adding the color. I also found that if I went and colored all the petals at the same time and then came back, I did find that it was harder for to work the color with the water. I hope that makes sense. So, as you see, I'm not being precise. With this image, I'm a little sloppy, just because, you know, if it does bleed into another petal, it's not so much of a big deal because they're all the same, technically the same color, but we are trying to work with shading. If this was an image I was going to use on a card, I'd be a little more precise with my coloring, a little slower with the brush. You know, plus, again, you would be looking at the back of my head because I like to work over my image. So now we're going to move back over here. And I do like these. It's not, I'm not seeing the pen marks underneath. It's moving really easily. Again, now I haven't, you know, I don't think I'd recommend like trying to color them all in and coming back later and trying to use the water to reactivate it. I mean, I'm sure it would reactivate, but I think that you would definitely see the streaking and see the pen strokes underneath. Da 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 da. And I think I'm so far liking, I think I'm liking these better than the TwiMarkers, although those worked really well. Trying to make sure I figure out which one's the petal and which one's the leaf. I think this is turning out pretty good. Do do do. I am noticing a big difference between this Arteza watercolor paper and when I ran my first test with the brush pens. I used some cheap a little 5x7 I believe block that I had gotten from Tuesday Morning, and it really didn't move, you know. The pens, at least the, now see there, I put water in here and I tried to go over it with the pen and it's not really taking it on the paper. So with these, I would definitely put your color down first and then come over with the water. So let's see, I'm going to do a couple of these petals at the same time and see if leaving it sitting on the paper a little bit makes it harder to move. These are strictly fine point. There is no brush on these. I will say, I think the only thing that bugs me is I don't like the sound of scratching, and these definitely make a lot of scratchy noises when you're trying to use them on the paper. I'm sure that you can hear it as I'm adding it. So we're going to come back over here. Okay, yeah, you leave it sit and it is a little harder to move. So, yeah, I would definitely add the color first. I would not try adding the water to the paper first and then trying to add the color. And I am adding lots of color where it's shaded because, of course, since it's underneath, it should be a darker leaf. Trying to speed this up. Okay, let's see. And I think considering it's a single color that we're using here, I think we're getting a good variation as far as shading goes. Okay, so I think now we're going to move to our green. Get our leaves colored in. I will say I think I like the greens in this particular set better than I did the TwiMarkers. See, that was supposed to be, see, I was rushing and I colored a leaf when it should have, or colored it a petal when it should have been a leaf. So that's gonna bug me. We're gonna kind of fake that leaf in there. That should be green there, but I messed that up. All right, and now we're gonna color in the little yellow berries. And these, if you want, you can just color them and not add the water. I'm not being very precise because, again, the image isn't very clear, but there's the difference between those. There's a big difference in the reds. Of course, we had more choices over here, but I think that's more of a poinsettia red. And I think if we let it dry and come back in like 30 minutes or so and go over it again, I think that would really intensify the color. So now I wish I remember where, I think this was here. There we go. We'll get those put away. And now we're going to try the brush pens. And that would be these guys right here. And these are supposed to be the Arteza equivalent of the Zig Real Color brush pens. And I really do like the Zigs, so we're going to use these the same way that I did with the TwiMarkers. We're going to put it onto this sheet here and then put the color to the paper. And there's not a real intense red. So with these are the colors on, this is just called red, A101. So we're going to go with that. We're going to grab us a yellow. And then let's grab us a couple of greens. I'm going to go with this. All right. And we're going to try these a little different. These are completely different than the Twi's, because these are actually brush bristles on here. All right, so we're going to come down, we're going to add the color directly to the paper. Look how intense that is. And now we're going to take the watercolor brush, or the water brush, and see how well that moves. And this moves so much better than, so the quality of the paper makes a huge difference with these pens. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like I said, my first go around with these brushes, I did not care for them, and I actually considered giving them away. But now that I'm actually using them on a better cardstock or watercolor paper, I am really loving these. Now, let's see. We're trying to add some shading in here. It's a little easier with those. Okay. You can't get a lot of fine detail with these, the way these go down, so I'm just going to let you know that. You can get a much more intense color, that's for sure. However, if you pull it from the paper, it waters down a little easier. If you can see the difference there. So I gotta say, I am very happy with these. I think I will be doing some of my Christmas cards using this media. And I think I'd actually use a watercolor brush instead of this brush pen. Again, if you're new to my channel, I would even say I'm barely a novice. I do not know a lot about watercolor. I almost just tried to dip this in the water. So I think, yeah, we're going to continue with adding the color to the paper and then coming back with the water. And we're going to see if leaving it on the paper for a little bit makes a difference and how easy it moves. Because again, the first time that I tried using these, it just would not move on the paper at all. It was not fun. I was very frustrated. And like I said, I was ready to give them away. But it is, okay, now it is a little harder, but it is moving, and it's not really leaving brush, you know, like intentional, like you can see where it was added. Okay. So when you leave it on the paper, you do have to use more water to activate it to get it to move. So I would suggest adding it and then bringing the water instead of leaving it. That's my personal opinion. Now I have not tried these on like arches or some really high-end like expensive Hanamule. I haven't used it on any watercolor paper of that quality. However, I will say that this Arteza expert paper is definitely much nicer than what I originally tested these out on. And I think the next time, yeah, I'm definitely going to use an actual watercolor brush instead of one of these aqua painters. To me, the barrel is too fat. That's a leaf, that's a leaf. Trying to make sure I only color the, yeah, that's a petal. So this is not very precise. I do apologize. Okay. We are going to go, yeah, we're going to go with this green. Really intense. Get the red off of there, and let's see how well that, oh, that's got a blue tint to it, and it is really intense and does not really, let's see. Oh, and it's actually pulling the water up in to the tip, so I can't do that. So this one here, we're gonna have to add a lot of color. And I think with this green, we're really gonna have to add the color down. There we go. Kind of have to let it dry up a little bit before you try to add the color back. And I'm getting ink all over myself. All right, and then our little berries. So we have the brush pens, the Inkonics, and the brush, or the TwiMarkers. I'm very happy. I really like this watercolor paper. I will definitely be using this going forward when I'm doing basic coloring. Very, very happy. And doing this, I am now loving my Arteza brush pens. Again, because the first time I was not a big fan of them. They definitely worked better, moved better. The colors were more intense. And overall, I'm just really happy with how they performed. Again, it's not the best quality watercolor because I'm not good at it. Again, you would be looking at the back of my head if I were painting, you know, because I work over my image when I'm actually working on something for a project. So again, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. I will give you my honest opinion. I am very happy with how this all turned out. I think that, you know, if I were more precise in my coloring and with my brush, the images would be much prettier. I like the range of colors that I have here. And all around, yeah. Arteza, thank you so much for reaching out to me, letting me try your products. I am very happy. I hope that they will, you know, continue to work with me. And yeah, because they have a huge, if you're not familiar with Arteza, they have a huge range of color media out there. They have gouaches, acrylics, watercolors, just all kinds of medium out there to work with in your crafting adventures. So, all in all, I'm very happy. We have completely different looking poinsettias here, and I was very pleased with how the colors moved for not being actual, you know, like watercolor, like Daniel Smith, other brands out there. So, again, please check the description. There will be links to the items that were used today, and there is a coupon code that is in the description as well. I believe it is good until, I believe the end of November, I believe, or it's the end of October. I'll have, you know, the official information in the description. So, yeah, so again, thank you, Arteza. I'm very happy with how everything worked, and I'm definitely going to be using this image. Again, this is not an Arteza image. I'll be using these on some cards in the future, so keep a lookout when I have some finished cards to show you, because I'm really excited. With that, I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your Sunday. I am off to cook dinner, and as always, love you guys to pieces. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.